And my computer is doing, it's like, if I don't use the computer, it does like a little spin thing so the ink doesn't dry, but hopefully you didn't hear all that. So, welcome to the Divine Feminine series. We are talking about Durga, and we did something really fun last month. Last month, I told Cassandra, just pull a card from your Divine Feminine deck, and that's who we're going to go with. And I was excited, and Sunshine was excited to have it be Durga. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about first introducing Durga because many of you may not know Durga. And Durga comes from the Hindu spirituality, faith, religion. And so, she is a really interesting character, and I'm going to let Cassandra start and share what she's learned about Durga, and then I'll jump in and share things that I learned about Durga, and we'll give you the complete story on Durga. Cassandra.
Good morning, afternoon, whatever, wherever you are, whatever time it is. I am Cassandra, and I am just a seeker of knowledge and spreader of the same. So if it's a type of knowledge, I'm going to go after it. And the Hindu faith, the Hindu religion, or in general, Hindu Eastern mythology was not in my wheelhouse growing up at all.
Nope.
So going into this Divine Feminine series, I was really excited to start learning more about other cultures and their pantheons and their gods and goddesses and how they were able to move throughout their day with explaining the unexplained through these gods and goddesses. And what the Hindu just tradition in general alone, as I was learning more and more about it throughout the last couple of weeks, just is glorious. The concept that everything is a cycle as opposed to everything has an end. The way that I was raised in a Methodist church, the way that the feminine looks in a Methodist church or in Christian mythology in general is a little bit different than Eastern traditions. And so learning about the fierceness of Durga was just phenomena, or Durga. I'm attempting to say it the way that you're supposed to. So what I learned, you mentioned Brahma in your yoga set. Um, that's where I started, was learning that there are a couple of, there's not a one central creed holy figure in Hindu tradition the way that I grew up in Christian mythology. So there's three that kind of go along with preservation, destruction, and creation. And that comes from Brahmanism. So it focuses on a masculine energy, but then there's also Shaktiism that pulls in this divine energy. So the God trio that they use for preservation is Vishnu, destruction is Shiva, and creation is Brahma. And so Shiva kind of moves into what Durga is, into the Shaktiism. So Shaktiism, the trio of goddesses rather than gods, that include all three. So it kind of encompasses preservation, destruction, and creation within this divine feminine entity that we now see as Durga. And Durga has a couple of origin stories, but the two that I found that were the most interesting, she appears first from the sleeping body of Shiva, and he's in a very deep Odin-like sleep. And she has to appear in order to defeat Ashura, a demon. And this demon is actually coming from the earwax of Shiva while he's sleeping. So this demon emerges, and Shiva has nothing to do with it. So Durga comes out ready to fight, pretty much. She emerges riding a lion with 8 arms full of weapons, and she dispatches the demon. She dispatches the demons because they multiply. Another story, which was actually the one that kind of is more central to her main story, really. The demon appears while Shiva's awake, and Shiva creates the best divine being yet, which is a combination of a bunch of the divine beings. So each deity shares a piece of their power, their arm, leg, weapon, or their skills, and they use all of that to create this massive woman, this feminine deity that's invincible. So in Sanskrit, Durga means invincible. With elegance and grace and rage and power, she basically defeats these demons that emerge, and not with, well, I say elegance in a way, but it's actually with so much ferocity that we see elegance a little bit differently in the Western world with femininity. the elegance that I pictured for this battle that Durga was in, she was actually licking and drinking up the blood of the demons so that they wouldn't reproduce. So there's so much ferocity in this goddess. It took me a moment to almost um, comprise how this feminine deity looks versus how I was raised with how femininity should be. And the idea that in order to defeat something that no one else could defeat, they had to create a feminine deity that encompassed all of the chaos, all of the grace, all of the glory that each deity had. And she used all of that with her weapons. So she has 7 weapons of divine power: the trident, which is Shiva's trident, meaning, and no enemy can escape that trident. The Shuddashan chakra, the circular disc, which she uses that on her finger, but it signifies control of the universe. The conch shell, an emblem for the sacred Om sound, so that Om that we constantly hear. The bow and arrow, which signifies potential and kinetic energy, showing that she has control over both types of energy, what's imagined and what's real. The thunderbolt, which signifies her rage and her anger for battle, which also reminds us, like I said, growing up in a Christian mythology type of scenario, I was never aware that we could be angry as women. So the fact that they gave her something that was necessary to face life, to face these demons, it included anger and it included rage. And then her sword, which signifies divine knowledge, light in the darkness. And some of us, we read tarot cards, the swords, they also signify similar things like that divine knowledge, that ability to discern. And then she also has a half open lotus. It actually signifies humility and triumph, but also the mind's development in the midst of the spiritual mud. So it's half open because we haven't yet reached the full blossom of it. So the story of Durga, I mean, when I first read from my goddess oracle, it actually talked about setting boundaries and the ability for us as women to set our boundaries because we're not limitless. So when I read about her story and learned of how ferocious she was and how fierce she was in battle, but also using what they considered elegance and grace, despite being so almost bloody and violent. We can see this feminine deity that also exudes elegance and grace. So they're not mutually exclusive. They can be a part of the same story. And the poem for boundaries that she represents, it says, when threatened by demons, I fiercely protect myself. With all that I am, with all that I have, from deep within, I call forth all that I need. I am inaccessible, for I place myself beyond the reach of all that would destroy me, all that would annihilate me, all that tries to wound me. I am the unapproachable, for nothing can get at me that I do not willingly let in. I dance my dance of oneness only with what supports me, nurtures me, loves me. For all that does not, I say, approach at your own risk. So, in a way, this deity taught me that self love can still be achieved through elegance and grace and also ferocity and rage. So, those are the things that I learned about Durga. What about you, Deb?
So, Durga is this obviously, you've given a great picture of how powerful she was, how revered she was. And there is actually a celebration where they celebrate for 9 days and nights because the story says for 9 days and nights she fought, and I'm going to try to say this name right, Mashishura. And
Ashish.
Mashishura is this chaotic being that was morphing into different creatures to try and defeat them. And so um, she's just very much revered, very much powerful. Like you said, divine feminine power, protection, courage, and the triumph of truth. Her story is very symbolic, right? There's a lot of symbolism in there with all of these pieces that were given to her, all of these weapons for her to use. And and over time, that deeper understanding of fierce compassion and protective strength can go hand in hand, right? And fierce compassion just feels like that's an oxymoron, but it truly can be a way to live. So she's this feminine force when the world needed to be restored. So in their philosophy, there was this discord, and the living divine, the living divine is in all of creation, right? It's in all of creation. And she is just really about protection and boundary setting. So I just feel like her story is so beautiful because, like you said, this, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to try to say it, Mashishura, the Mashishura was terrorizing the world, threatening to overthrow the gods, and the gods could not defeat him. And so they had to come up with this super powerful goddess, and they just needed something extraordinary. And so they said, let's each give something of ourselves and create this beautiful divine feminine. And that is where they combine their energy to make Durga. And again, Shiva gave the trident, Vishnu gave the discus, like you already said, all those pieces. And she rode into battle, right? And I want you to think about, and she's also called sometimes Durga Ma, like the Mother Durga, and because she's very protective, right? She's going to be that mother protector. And I love like her riding in on a lion or tiger, like that's very much that like tigress lioness protection. She holds the tenderness and the ferocity at the same time. So it's just this really beautiful balance. But I want you to think about like the symbolism in all of it
Mhm.
because she her arms have all this capacity, but it's not chaos, right? Like they
Right.
all have a purpose. Every single thing she's holding, each weapon in the pic. Where did I put her card?
Yeah, I
Where did
can
I
show my.
put her card? Um, I'll show it again because I think I showed it before I was recording, and yours is probably pretty good too. Like it's really it's not chaotic. It's very like her bow, her arrow, all the pieces are very there together to be used when needed. And like I said, she fought for 9 days and nights, and this Mashishura kept morphing, and at the end morphed into a buffalo, and that was the final beast that she defeated. And it was about restoring balance. It was about taking that chaos away and restoring the balance. And they really honor her and the divine feminine in all of this. And that fierce compassion, I just love because people, I think, sometimes feel like compassion in our patriarchal society, at least that I was raised in, compassion is seen as weak. It's like it's you're weak if you're compassionate, right? And show no mercy and don't have compassion. And yet she is this strong figure of compassion and so looked up to and revered. And compassion can be our superpower. It is not a weakness at all. And her battle really isn't about hatred, it is restoring the harmony.
Balance.
Yeah, this balance. And this month, it's really great that I kept getting this balance message with her and this balance message. And this month, my blog and my workshop that I just did yesterday was on the divine feminine and masculine, not gender roles of men and women, but society has taken that balanced divine masculine and feminine and tried to separate it and be like, this belongs to you and this belongs to you. And if you as a female act strong, then you're difficult. And if you as a male show your emotions, then you're weak. And it's like, my goodness, it's a balance. You need it all. You need it integrated, right? And so I love this message of boundaries. I love boundaries, boundaries and protection. Like strength and boundaries are not taking away compassion. You can be compassionate, but that doesn't mean you're a doormat, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
You have to have boundaries. You have to protect yourself. You have to have that self-respect as well. and then courage in the face of chaos. This
Yes.
this creature was the representation of chaos, and she confronts it. She doesn't avoid it. And how often do we avoid the chaos? And she's like, no, just face it. You can do this. The integration of power, all of her weapons come from all of these different gods. And symbolically, this shows true strength comes from integrating, right?
Yes.
True
Using all.
strength comes from many energies from within us. I am not a one-trick pony, right? I have a lot of tools in my tool belt. I have a lot of abilities, and I need to integrate all of that. And part of that too is that divine masculine and feminine, the strength, which and courage, which might be more of a masculine quality, um, and the compassion. Like she just is just the perfect blend of that. And she's this very much active, protective, wise, like woke. To me, she's just like, she's woke, man. Um, so I love it. And there's just a lot of symbolism that we can look at in her and take from her and learn from her. And that's what excited me from her
Yes.
story is who knew that when you would randomly pull this card, I already had my whole blog and workshops. They're laid out through June. I started last June and I said where I wanted to start and where I wanted people to end up in a year. In a year's time, I wanted them to come back to themselves and connect to their values and all these, like it's a building point, right? But yet this is how spirit works, right? It's so beautiful. You pull a card, and when I say randomly, it was divinely, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't random. It was
Yeah.
divinely. And I'm like, her energy matches perfectly with everything I just taught yesterday
Yes.
and everything my group coaching talked about last Tuesday. And I just thought, oh, I'd heard of her and I knew her, but I
Hmm.
kind of I missed a lot of things with her. In studying her, there's things that I missed. I just saw her as a warrior. I
Right.
saw her as a fighter. And there is just so much more complexities to this. And I didn't really understand the whole story of how she became. And the more I was digging into her, I'm like, what is the message? And there are so many messages, but it fit so well.
Yes.
And so just I want to go over a couple more pieces of
Hmm.
symbolism real quick. The lion or tiger, she's depicted with both sometimes. Just think of the instincts of that animal, right?
Hmm.
When they are on the prowl and their instincts, their courage, their ability to like just fight through and be this strong and like keyed in, like
They
predatory,
focus.
like they know where they're going, they're on their path, they're like cued into where they need to be going. I think about her multiple arms. Sometimes it's 8 arms she's depicted with, sometimes 10. And this is like having all this different responsibility and powers at once. And
Juggle.
and we are all this way. We are all multifaceted. And I think we diminish what we are. We diminish what we're capable of. We're like, well, I'm kind of good at this. And again, you're not a one-trick pony.
Right.
And maybe you have some strengths that you feel super comfortable in, but maybe you just haven't given these other ones a chance. You
Mm.
haven't tried them out. You haven't tested the waters. And maybe there are things that you are stronger than you think. You just don't you just don't trust it yet. You haven't gone there yet. So you can hold much responsibility and many different powers and you can have it all together. And her weapons, and this is something I say all the time, her weapons, these are the tools. And I always talk about the tools in your tool belt. When you are feeling anxious, what is a great thing? Grounding,
Hmm.
breath work. Just take a deep breath. Just breathe it in. Take a deep breath in and out. That's a tool in my tool belt. And I have all these tools in my tool belt. And I'm
Hmm.
not running around with a bow and an arrow and a discus and a thunderbolt, but yet I am running around with the tools and the things that I've learned. And those those are very symbolic of things you all have within you as well. And they are there to confront the illusion that we believe. And the illusion we believe is often that we're not enough,
Mm.
that we aren't powerful enough, we aren't strong enough, we aren't good enough. And and our ego can really get in the way as well too. And so it's just like it's breaking through all of that to all the possibility of what you are and confronting the illusion that the world has taught you, the illusion that um, that you were raised in, and having you really step into like what is really for me. Her calm face in battle, this is so important. Even in chaos, she remains centered. And this is like, I'm like, this is my girl. What do I say every day on my morning live? I'm going to handle my day with ease and grace. And she is so centered. And I know that for the last 4 years, on a daily basis, saying I will handle my day with ease and grace has kept me more centered. And I will tell you, yesterday, I was I was so frustrated in my job that my coworker, who this year celebrated 30 years working at my hospital, not one person mentioned it. She only told me, but she wasn't recognized. It wasn't mentioned. Like we had our team huddle. The supervisor and the manager were there. Nothing, no recognition. On top of it, like they're micromanaging her of like, your lunch break is 30 minutes and there's a 5-minute grace period, and you've been pushing up to 34 a couple of times. In this month, you're averaging like 36. And she's had computer issues. They updated her computer. She's having issues getting back in sometimes. And she's like, I am feeling so micromanaged. And one of our coworkers is off next week. And for 2 years, I've been telling them we need coverage. We don't have enough coverage. And for 17 years, never gone to HR until like 2 years ago. And I'm like, there is not enough coverage. And it is
Mm.
not fair to us. We are a high performing team, so we're going to get it done, but it's exhausting and it's really not fair. We need coverage. So 2 weeks ago, I tell the manager and the supervisor in our team huddle, we have vacations coming up and time off. And I'm just wanting to make sure we're going to have coverage. And the manager kind of smugly says, that's my job to figure out. Don't you worry. We're going to take care of it. So just so you know, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're a team of two because one of the girls is on vacation. And Thursday, I'm taking the day off. And they've planned nothing. And so I told my coworker who was really upset on Friday, I mean, I got angry. I got very angry. I just was feeling all of this anger of like, this is so unfair. We have said it time and time again. And I'm I'm mad that they didn't recognize her. I just think that's shitty.
Mhm.
And I'm frustrated that I know they haven't done any coverage. And then Monday's going to come along and they're going to be like, oh, sorry, we don't have any coverage. So I told my coworker, because our phones are open till 5, I'm off at 4. I said, I'm logging off at 4. You're off at 4:30, you're logging off at 4:30. And we're done. Not our problem. Let the manager or the supervisor answer the phones, but we're done. It is not our problem if they have not done it. So
Agree.
I had this, I think I'm thinking of Durga and like, she but I didn't just like get mad and angry and just spout off. Like I was like, I'm gonna focus in on a plan. And here's how we are gonna do our job, and we're gonna leave when we have to leave, and it's not our problem, and they're gonna handle it. And I don't care if our grade of service on our phones, because everything is like a report, how quickly you answer phones and all these things. I said, we're just going to let the phones go to shit. If they go to shit, they go to shit. We're going to simply do our best. I'm not going to break my back and stress myself out. I'm just going to take the next call, and I'm going to take the next call, and we're just going to do what we can do. But it is not my problem to solve. And they clearly said they were going to take care of it. And if they don't, that's on them. And so I feel like I was very, like, I had that anger and I had that warrior within me, like, um, and, and actually I wanted to be really sassy. And I said, I told Chris, I said, if on Monday we have no coverage, I'm going to immediately send an email to HR and let them know we are again without coverage. when we were told that they were going to take care of it 2 weeks ago. And um, and then if we have a huddle on Tuesday, I'm going to let my manager know. You're so keen to let us know where we are taking an extra minute too long on a break or lunch. And I want to let you know, this is my verbal warning to you that you have failed in covering our desks while we have a coworker out. I'm going to give her a warning. I'm going to just turn it right around on her. And she's like, Debbie, and I said, no, I'm serious. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to yell. I'm just going to be like, I need you to know where you're failing me. So you're keen to give us feedback, and I'm here to give you feedback. And my feedback to you is you have failed us. So but I'm going to be centered and I'm going to be calm. But I was just like, I was vomiting like so much anger out of my mouth. Not vomiting. I just was like, I'm angry and I'm frustrated. It's not fair. It's not right. And how am I going to proceed? And I was like, here's what I'm going to do, Chris. And she's like, okay, I'm 79% there with you because she's a people pleaser. And then by the end of the day, she's like, I'm 100% there. I'm logging off at 4:30 next week, whether we have coverage or not. But this is this Durga, right? I'm allowed to have chaos around me and say, this is what I'm going to do, and here's how I'm going to handle it, but I can remain centered. And that's the inner mastery of the rage and the rage and the chaos and how I'm going to operate in that rage and chaos and address it. And that's
And
my perfect example to share for you.
it was perfect because as you're telling the story, I was thinking, okay, well, in Durga's story, she also uses rage, right? She uses that anger instead of letting it be chaos that controls her. She uses it to control how she responds. And that's exactly what you did. You set a plan using your anger as a tool instead of as a thing that controlled you and as a thing that
Correct.
controlled you and your friend and your coworker. So that's another lesson for us too, is that when we have these spurts of anger and chaos in our own brain, that we can also turn that into a tool of some sort.
Absolutely. And don't reject your anger.
Mm-hmm.
Don't reject your rage when something is not right and there is injustice in the world and things are unfair or whatever.
Unbalance.
We are not to sit back and be passive because we're compassionate, you know, feminine, divine, whatever. No, we are allowed to stand up. We are allowed to call injustice out, and we are allowed to get into our tool belt and pull out the tools to stand up and speak our truth and but remain centered and and spouting off at somebody, but being very thoughtful and being like, you've given me feedback and now I'm providing you feedback. And I've
Mm-hmm.
shared this like you have to, and I'm going to do my job, but I can't stay later. I'm not going to stay longer. I'm going to do my job, do my time. It is not my responsibility to work overtime because of their lack of finding somebody to cover. And that's not my problem. So you focus in, you make a plan, because so many times we give in to help and make it work and we're just not the problem's not getting solved, so we're just going to do it that way. The other really beautiful thing that came to me in reading about Durga is this can also be reflective of our own inner journey. Okay,
Yes. The
so
ego being the demon too.
yes, the Mahashasura is
Mm-hmm.
our shape-shifting ego. It's
Mm-hmm.
ignorance, destructive with the psyche. It's all those things. It's that negative inner voice. It's that all that societal BS that we were raised in that we believed, and now we have to undo it, right? And so Durga represents that awakened self of
Yes.
us undoing all those pieces, of questioning it, of addressing it, of facing it, of having the courage. And it refuses to let fear, refuses to let chaos or oppression dominate her. And this
Amen.
is what we do. We awaken to all these pieces and we put all these tools in our tool belt as we learn all these things. So it's this really journey of our inner self. And the message is not simply to destroy something external from us, it's to stand firmly in our truth. And it's to restore the balance, which I've been talking about in my blog and I talked at this
Yes.
workshop within ourselves. And when we do that within ourselves, then we are putting more balance in the world.
Yes, we
Let
balance
me
it.
say that again. When you take that divine masculine and feminine energies and you balance them, your masculine energy becomes the protector of your compassion and your creativity, right? And so this is Durga. She is the protector, the boundary holder of all that is good, compassionate, kind, all that. Boom. Boom. And you become that. And now, once you become that, then you show others how to be that. And you expect it from others and you desire it from others and you model it to others. And others are like, oh, I can be compassionate, but I can be strong and I can stand up for what's right. And I don't have to put up with X, Y, and Z. And I'm
Yes.
telling you, in my job was the last place that I ever felt like I always was like, do it all, Debbie. I talk about do it all, Debbie all the time in my blog, do it all, Debbie. But in my work, I was always that person. And like I said, starting about 2 years ago, I started saying no. And my gosh, my coworker who's worked here 30 years, and I've worked here 17 going on 18, she says, you just said no? I said, yes. And in fact, I actually said no to the CEO about 10 years ago and I'm still employed. So apparently, saying no is okay. The CEO reached out to me to have her housekeeper's grandson see one of the head of neurology for like headaches. And I said, I'm so sorry, but she's not going to be able to see that child. But I'm going to ask her. I said, she sees patients with the most severe epilepsy who need brain surgery to control their epilepsy. And so it really is not a good service for her to see a patient with a headache. So let me reach out to her and see which one of her doctors on her team would be a good fit for this patient. And so I mean, I said no, but I didn't say like no, we're not going to see the child. Like I just diverted in a very nice way. But I literally told my CEO no and I'm still employed and it's okay. Like
Hmm.
you're allowed to say no. And I didn't say no in a mean way, like, oh my God, are you so stupid? No. I just said, you know what? That's actually not probably a good fit for this patient. And in fact, this is what her wheelhouse is, and these patients need her. So let's reach out to her as the head of that division. We'll find another neurologist in our group that will be good for this patient, right? And so I said no, and I stood my ground for that and for her, but with compassion. And we found a good neurologist within our group to see that child. So standing firmly in our truth, restoring balance within ourselves and within our world. Like
Yeah.
that's a great message.
And even in your last story, you used your sword of discernment, your sword of knowledge, your Durga sword of knowledge, because you knew exactly what needed to happen and you set the boundary to make sure that chaos didn't ensue over something that would have just kind of happened if you hadn't have spoken up.
Right.
And
I love it.
I'm,
So I I just I feel like I know Durga so much better. I guess I just kind of had this vision of this warrior
yeah,
goddess. And there is so much more complexity to Durga. There is so much more to know. And Durga Ma as a mother figure, as a compassionate but protective, like that makes such sense to me. Um, and just that permission that you are allowed to be powerful, that compassion and boundaries can live together. And I'm like, that is so my message to the world, that boundaries are sacred. Sacred. Yes, they are. And not to shrink when you're confronted with something. No, I'm not going to shrink. And that courage is part of your sacred nature. Like this is like such a good message. So I'm
mhm.
curious to know I mean, I think we both have shared all this stuff that we kind of learned and took away. I'm curious if anybody else who maybe has had an affection for Durga and really like connected with her, or if this is your first time learning, like, what are your thoughts on Durga? I would love to hear what anybody else would have to share, or you can write it in the comments. Um, like, are these new insights or takeaways? Because I was excited. I was lit up for her. Any thoughts?
I love Durga. And I shared with you, I have this, I'll just tell a brief story about, I got this picture. I went to an estate sale and I saw this picture and I said, oh my gosh, I'm taking her home. And then I came home and I had no idea who she was. The people that were selling the stuff had no idea who she was. And so I spent time learning. And I think you two have done a brilliant job at explaining, describing who she is and what she does. And I can't hang anything on the walls here, but I've been rearranging my house and I have her right there.
Oh, nice.
I was like, that's as close to hanging as she's going to get in my house. But I love Durga, and I feel like uh, she's definitely one of my goddesses. I have gods, goddesses, guardians, and guides, and she's definitely she and Hecate are the two that are my top two. Because women are protectors. We are naturally born to protect people, and like you shared, Cassandra, that in the Western world, we are to be quiet and
Yes.
respectful and look a certain way. And these women are like, fuck you. Here I am. And I like that.
Hear me roar. And
Yes.
and that's part of that like this whole divine feminine series that we've been doing has been focusing on hidden figures of divinity that for me personally growing up in a church I only saw these deities as pagan gods and goddesses that I could not look at or fathom because that's out of the wheelhouse of my Christian faith. So now learning about them I realize okay, well no wonder, because if we know of a goddess that what 25,000 BCE is when the Hindu tradition officially started that they can trace it back to. That's such an old tradition for people to believe that women are fierce and powerful and they have things to say, they have things to do, and they don't need to be shushed in any way, shape, or form. And so that the hidden part for me was that, oh my gosh, there has been a tradition or traditions for thousands of years that have put these women that were strong and full of fire on pedestals. Whereas in other traditions, we've learned that women should be submissive, or that women, I was always told, girls are to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
That your opinions, what you cannot have these opinions. You need to let them speak, let them do what they need to do, let them say what they need to say. And this does not say that. This Durga does not say, okay, well, I'll just wait until everyone's done and then maybe I'll get to say something. She's the one that went in on the front line. So to me, it's like being able to see these divine feminine entities that inspired people for thousands of years and kind of gotten hidden, like we talked about in the Western culture, especially. Then we can actually bring them back out and say, hey, no, this is what was revered for a long time, and we can still pull that out of our pocket too. So I love that, and I love your picture of Durga.
She
Thank you.
found you
She
for
found
sure,
me.
sunshine.
Hmm.
She came to you in that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like obsessed with her right now. She's like, I mean, I had gone through this whole yogic deck and kind of looked at that whole kind of story, but the book doesn't give me the research that I did. It talked about her being a warrior and a protector. But the more I read it, I was just like, oh, I just love her. Like she is awesome.
Yes.
And and she's you're allowed to have this divine feminine rage and but focused and thoughtful and poised among in chaos. And like you said, I think about what I was raised in, and not even just my religious beliefs, but the country that I'm in, and
Mm-hmm.
when women could vote. And when
Mm-hmm.
I was born, women couldn't have a bank account or a credit card and buy a house and or get a business loan or a bank loan, like all these things because of this patriarchal system that we live in. And we've gained so much ground, but now I feel like the patriarchy is like chiseling away at it again, and reproductive rights have been taken, and voting now they want to, we have to have a ID that matches our birth certificate, and you know, mine doesn't match my birth certificate. Anyway, so it's just, we have to continue to be this awakened, beautiful, divine feminine. We have to stand up to injustice. We have the tools to do it. We have to be calm in chaos. We can't let them goat them, egg us on into pettiness or we just have to be standing tall and firm in who we are. And we are not a lesser, we are an equal, probably the better model in my opinion, but I won't, I don't want to step on too many toes. I mean, we're really good at multitasking. Anyway, um, so I just so love the message that she's having today. And so here's my last question to leave you all with. Where in your life is the energy of Durga asking you to rise up? Or asking you to set a boundary, or asking you to reclaim your power, right? Because in all that she is, there has to be one, two, all of the above. You can be like, click, click, click. Where in your life is she asking you to rise up? That is the deeper question today. And I think she's a beautiful example. And I'm so glad that we shared about her, got to talk about her, and and when you rise up, what is that going to look like to hold the compassion and the fierce protection at the same time as you do so? Compassion, protection. It is that perfect balance. It just goes hand in hand again with that workshop yesterday. But she's asking you to rise up. And there's no coincidence in the fact that that's the card that came out and that's who we are
Yes.
talking about today. It ties in with everything I have been called to speak about this month. Something I chose this topic for the month of March, the divine feminine and masculine and this balance and protection and compassion. And I did that last May. Last May, I laid out the whole 12 months. So nothing is a coink. It's not a coinky dink. It is divinely meant to happen.
Mhm.
So it has perfectly aligned, and it just, I'm just grateful to have this conversation. I'm grateful that she came up because she fits in everything I've been doing, but also she just feels like she's my girl. Like I get her a
I
hundred
love
percent. Like she's my girl. And I've been vibing in Hecate a lot lately, and just I have my whole little altar to Hecate with my key and all that. But now I'm like, oh,
Oh,
now Durga,
Durga.
and now I need a whole new altar to Durga.
Yes.
I need, there's going to be like 20 altars in my house, and that's okay.
That is okay
That's
because
okay.
we need different tools to face life, right?
Yes, yes. But I'm and Kuan Yin has been like my
Yes.
compassion. But Durga comes in with like, okay, girl, you got the compassion, but are you protecting that? Are you standing up for that? Are you being fierce for that? And so she just brings a whole different perspective. Um, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So,
And
anybody have any questions that you want to ask us? Is everybody good? Everybody feel like they have a really good sense of Durga now? I got a thumbs up from Emmy. We love doing this series. This
yes.
is just so great. I'm like the biblical ones. I knew a lot of those. I knew those because I was raised in that, and I knew there was more to Deborah. I knew she had been diminished. I knew there was more to some of these other people, and I already vibe with Kuan Yin. But I'm loving these conversations we're having, and I'm loving like what they're asking of me. And
Yes.
so this this next month, I'm like, where am I rising up in more areas? Because, I don't have it all figured out. I got a lot of it figured out, but there's more to do. There's always more to do. There's more growth. There's more, all of it. Do you want to just pull another random card from your deck?
Yes, I do. And of course, I've left it. So
Oh,
I'll just
that's okay. And nothing's random, right? Nothing's
none
random.
of them. And I love that we did Kuan Yin compassion.
Yeah.
Durga still shows compassion for self. Like Kuan Yin is
Yes.
compassion in general, but then we
She's a lot of compassion outward, right? Yeah.
we dive into fierce compassion for self via boundaries. And so
Yes.
now let's see what we should do next month. And we do need to pick a date too. I'm so excited about this in general. Okay.
So
Ooh,
good.
Cara Dwen. Cara,
Oh, okay. Death and rebirth.
Death and Rebirth.
Okay. Caradwin.
Cara
I'm
Dwen.
here for it. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget it.
I believe she is Celtic, but I could be wrong. Let me see here.
Sounds Celtic. Sounds
Sounds very Celtic.
sounds Celtic in
Welsh.
that.
Yes, she is the triple goddess, maid, mother, and crone in the Welsh tradition,
Welsh.
associated with moon, inspiration, poetry, prophecy, shape shifting, and life and death. I think we can work with this.
I think
I'm
we can.
excited.
I'm excited too. And she's holding a mushroom in the picture, which to me just the fungus among us is so
And I
exciting.
love how the moon phases are all the
Yes.
different faces of her and how we go through those faces. Also my mushroom mug says stay wild. So
We're in our wild phase with these.
yeah, I'm wondering if like part of that holding that mushroom is like don't be too tamed because the world wants us to be tamed and subdued and demure.
Well,
I'm
then
just
we,
throwing that out there right now. Don't be so
yes,
tame. Don't be so
yes.
tame.
And she's putting it in her cauldron, so it's almost like it's a necessary ingredient for whatever.
Medicine. Medicine. We'll call it
There you
medicine.
We're
go.
gonna call it medicine, medicinal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I look forward to this next month, ladies. I'm so excited.
I am so excited too. I don't know if I have it on our calendar. Cassandra and
We
I
don't.
will have to chat and make sure we get it on the
Mhm.
calendar. We try to do about 3 months at a time, kind of lay out our schedules and pick a Sunday that works for us. So Cassandra and I will get that on the calendar. And in fact, Cassandra, we'll let everybody else jump off. I'll stop recording and maybe we can talk just for a couple of minutes
Yeah.
here real quick.